Hello there, folks. Kevin, KDI, April 8th, 2026. Got a weather and grain update. Wanted to just talk about the current events and how that is going to affect the grain markets long term, and then look at some of the current weather readings as they are getting fairly extreme in some cases. So we can probably expect some extreme results. So first off, yeah, the ceasefire, the 2-week ceasefire, signed that yesterday after some extremely strong rhetoric, which when you heard that kind of rhetoric, if you hear the rhetoric that they're going to wipe out a civilization or something like that, that's, to me, that's code for we have a deal in place, and we're going to make it as theatrical as possible. And I think the problem is I'm not sure if Israel and Iran fully understand the deal or accept the deal, and so we ended up with some guys crossing the lines today. Israel is going to continue attacks on Hezbollah, and Iran actually hit Kuwait a few times today as well, which seems like a violation. So we'll see where this goes. The most important point, the reason for the video, is that we just went through 6 weeks of a major fertilizer hiccup, and the results of that have not been felt or will be felt for a while, but they will be felt at some point, and we're being felt domestically with higher prices. You're seeing higher prices across the whole globe, and that'll limit some usage. The corn growers sent out a survey, and it sounded like the Corn Growers Association sent out a survey, and it sounds like 40% of the growers do not have all their nitrogen needs set up for this year. So that means A, they're either going to switch to a different crop for the acres they don't have nitrogen for, or B, they're going to cut back on the nitrogen for their corn. Either way, you're looking at a yield drag in corn, or a bushel drag in corn. So that is going to have a long-term effect. One of the biggest questions is what happens in South America. Do they have enough fertilizer to get through their safrinha crop? If they don't, can they get it? And the answer might be no on some of that. So we may see an effect on that second crop. And there may also be some issues in North American crop with the side dressing, whatnot, the later applications. They may choose not to do that based on price. I think it'll be available, but based on price. Now, if the rumors are true, it sounds like the Iranian urea area as well as the Qatar areas were hit hard enough. They will not be good for what did they say, 3 to 5 years in the Qatar region, and then not quite that long in the Iranian region. So you're looking at a 15 to 19% drop in world urea production right there that is offline, and it's going to take more than a year to get back online. And at the moment, none of the other exporters have stepped up to increase that gap. So there's a gap, and I think that'll be felt throughout the world on grain production. There's just no way it doesn't leave some kind of a mark. And it's not open today. The switch didn't turn back on. That's part of the ceasefire thing, was that Iran would be able to toll boats passing through, but I'm not sure if that's going to stand, or if they think there's a pretty big outburst over the idea that they would have complete control over the strait, therefore be able to have a lot of income off of the ships going through there. So as of today, the strait is partially open. It's not completely open. It's still a long ways from full capacity. Before the war started, we were looking at 130 ships a day. I'm guessing today we might be up to 30. So, 25%, 20 to 25% of what it was. So that's going to leave a mark. And that has got to provide some kind of a psychological floor in these grain markets, and we didn't see it today. We saw the knee-jerk reaction to the ceasefire with crude oil down $18 to $20 a barrel, and wheat was down 20 cents most of the day. Did try to rally a little bit. Soybeans actually went higher on the day. They kind of failed chart support there, and it kind of got down to where I was going to trigger some sales if it failed, and then it was bought back and closed higher on the day. Corn didn't do much at all, surprisingly, so it wasn't down that hard. The weather issues. We're apt to see some pretty good weather issues this year. We've already seen one with the southern plains. There's some of the bearishness in wheat was caused by some decent rain forecasts. The problem is a lot of the rain is going to miss the real dry parts. But at this point, I don't know if rain's going to help. The freeze did a lot of damage. A lot of that stuff the growers have given up on, and rain is not going to produce a crop. If anything, they're just going to switch it to Milo if they have that option, or to something else. So the market will perceive rain as bearish, and in the long run, it's not going to be bearish. It is what it is. The crop problem is there, and the question is, what happens next? Does the Pacific Northwest get hot and dry, as many models call for, or do we continue on a path of a really good crop? Here's some of our shallow ground. This is some of our really shallow stuff. It's big. It's knee high. It's thick. It's got the right color. Again, this is some of our porous ground. And point is, if it doesn't get a rain here in a couple of weeks, it's going to start going backwards really fast. So it's pretty desperate need for rains. Some areas are still too wet. If you're in that area, great. Most of the Northwest is going to need quite a bit of rain here and keep this crop going. A lot of it's 3 weeks early, so that puts the frost fears up. The big driver in the weather talks right now is the El Nino situation. It's moving from a La Nina territory to an El Nino territory at record speed, and that's going to cause some shifts in the weather, some big shifts, some big anomalies, some things that we don't normally see. The other thing that's going to cause this El Nino to perform different than other El Ninos is that the primary reason of the warm water is focused in the eastern Pacific, not the west, not the center, and so you're seeing a different spread on those ocean temperatures that we normally do in a typical El Nino. So the point is, it's not going to be a typical El Nino. So we have to kind of ignore some of those paradigms that we always fall into. And right now the paradigm is the Corn Belt is going to be, extremely wet. They're going to have extremely good growing season and above trend year, which is normal for an El Nino summer. And then the Northwest is typically going to be, hotter and drier in the spring with maybe somewhat of a temperate summer, but really no rainfall to speak of. And we'll see if that happens. Now the bigger question is what happens in South America, what happens in, we're just entering the weather season for the Black Sea in Eastern Europe. Europe's already been kind of on the map for too dry, but they've got a little bit of relief coming, potentially. Russia looks good at the moment. Eastern Europe has still got some dry pockets, in my opinion, so we're apt to see. We'll see how that develops as we get into the 1st of May. That's when it really starts to matter, and I guess that's when weather starts to matter for all of us at that point. So anyway, tomorrow I'll try to kick my written report out. It'll add to, I've got some interesting stuff to throw out there for you. So please read that when you get it, and be on the alert for recommendations as things are fluid, things are changing. The market has changed. It's not the same market we grew up with, not the same market I've studied for the last 30 years. It's a different one now. And, these levels, these cheap levels that we seem to be stuck in, I can point to lots of little things that have caused this, and I'm not sure what it'll take to blow out of it other than just flat running out of product somewhere. And that may be what has to happen to wake the computers up and realize that you can't have the growers' inputs all double or more and then have the price of grain go back to 1985 levels. That just doesn't make any sense. So there's going to be a repercussion at some point, and when that happens, we'll see if that shifts the computers and how they trade the markets, or if they just ignore it and call it a little blip, and then we go back to $5 again. So anyway, that's all I got for now. Have a great day.